In this short video, we will give you an introduction into CIVICA's CITO EDRMS. On the home screen, where we are at the moment, is a collection of what we call widgets. These widgets can be organized in a patient view to show patient lists. These can be provided by ward, for example, or by specialty, and also filtered by a consultant code, for example. Also on my widget home screen view, I also have the ability to use a messaging widget, which can be used for messages received from the system and also other colleagues, as well as work lists and tasks lists as well. This allows me to organize workflows, for example, that may be coming in for an action that I need to carry out as part of a pathway of care, or maybe as part of retention and disposal. At the top banner here, I can search for additional patients. So if I search for a new patient called Green, we can see here we get a number of results for patients with the surname Green, and I can use a number of different metadata to qualify the right patient. It could be a mixture of surname and forename, as well as maybe a date of birth or a primary metadata such as an NHS number or a hospital number. At the options at the top here, I also have the ability to potentially carry out other functions such as designing e-forms or designing workflows, or maybe the ability to view the audit. This will depend on my role rights that have been assigned to me by the system administrator. If we go into a patient's record, and again, depending on whether we have a widget home screen set up for potentially a clinic for today's patients, for example, if I go and click on Rachel Middleford's record, it's one click to get into that patient's record. And for consultants to find and easy navigate patient records, that's extremely important to know that you only have to use one click to get into that patient's record. We also have the ability to display alerts within the system. Now this may show things like known allergies, for example, but also whether someone is involved in maybe a clinical trial. I must confirm that I've read these alerts before I can proceed to continue to the patient's record. Once we're inside the patient's record, we'll just talk a little bit about the functionality we're now seeing on this screen. On the top bar here, I can obviously go and search for another patient if I want to look for another patient that may not be in a list on my home screen. But because I'm in a patient context, I can now also search for content within this patient's record. Under options, again, because we're in a patient context, my options have now changed, and I can now, for instance, start an e-form. I may be able to acquire an attachment, and it's worth pointing out at this point that if I am using CITO on a tablet device that may have a camera inbuilt, for example, I can actually attach information directly to the patient record using that tablet's camera. I may also have the ability to publish attachments. This is quite useful for subject access requests, for example, where I need to publish an entire patient record and all the information that's held within CITO around this particular patient. Next, we have our ISB compliant patient banner, which allows us to see all the key information and metadata that we hold around that patient. This could include address information, contact information, other information such as primary and secondary identifiers, as well as upcoming appointments, and any known alerts or allergies. Next, we have our attachment preview reel. This is a first page preview of every type of attachment that has been added to this patient's record. So we can see here it's very easy to start identifying the types of attachments that we have against this particular patient's record. We can see clearly there we have some medical photography. We may have certain types of anesthetic records, and we can also see that we have some legacy information here as well. At the moment, we're currently viewing the patient's record in a patient event-driven view, and that allows us to take additional clinical information and appointment data from the HL7 messages provided by the existing PAS or EPR to overlay patient event-driven data over the attachments and the captured records within the system. So for example, we can see we have an outpatient stay here, and if I click on the little I above the patient banner, we can see the actual notification messages that were sent to us. This is extremely useful because it allows us to see all the information about the patient's visit for this particular episode without having to necessarily dive into specific documentation. You will also see at the top of this particular attachment preview reel we have our points of interest markers. These are denoted by the exclamation marks in different colours that you can see here. So these may be our bookmarks or annotations, or also any keywords or phrases that we have asked the system to pick up and notify us of any existence within this particular patient record. Now these bookmarks, annotations and dynamic tagging can be set up by ourselves, or they can be set up by other users and then shared with us directly in what we call our profiles. We also have color coding, which can be seen underneath each attachment, and this may relate to the color coding of a particular category that has been set up within the system. On this example, we're showing a day forward record and also a legacy style record as well, showing the various dividers that may have existed in physical format that have now been changed into virtual folders. If I click anywhere in the attachment preview reel at the top, you'll see my timeline view has also highlighted the document that I'm currently viewing. If I scroll across and select another type of attachment, you'll see now we're now showing that in the timeline view in the far right. So let's have a look at a particular attachment. We'll pick on this pathology report that's currently being captured under investigations on the 1st of May 2016. If I select my icon on the left hand side to view the attachment, we then get a nice full page view of that particular attachment that was stored against the medical record. It's very easy for me to scroll up and down, and I can also select a film strip view, which will allow me to navigate the record in its entirety, depending on the role rights that I have to view the medical record, to easily find the information that I may be looking for over and above the initial document that I have selected. It's also extremely easy for me to compare information side by side. Using this pin on the top right hand corner, I can simply click on that and then get a second viewing pane. This allows me then to traverse the medical record through to maybe a different type of attachment and compare information side by side. I can then zoom in on this information if I want to. So this is extremely useful for comparing maybe ECGs or other types of charts, for example. But I can also pin these so that I can scroll synchronously between two different documents. Again, very useful if I want to scroll through a multiple page document and compare it with another multiple page document. Simply clicking the X there allows me to take me back to my last viewed bit of information. We'll see here that pathology report has actually been highlighted. Now the reason it's been highlighted, and as we can see here it's also marked with a point of interest, is that because I have set up a dynamic tag for pathology report under my dynamic tagging profile. And this is an example of how keywords or medical phrases can be used to easily highlight a part of a record as soon as I enter the record, so that I know there is some key bits of information that are important to me and that I can quickly and easily navigate to those particular marked documents. I also have the ability to go into a full screen mode by clicking on the little full screen icon on the left hand side. This maximizes my real estate, so it's very easy for me to then view the additional documents within that pane. As mentioned previously, CITO has the ability to dynamically tag and highlight keywords or phrases that I may have asked the system to find automatically when I'm traversing a patient's record. But I also have the ability to do an ad hoc search as well. Let's search for the term blood, and we'll get a Google style results pane showing us all the hits for the word blood in various documentation throughout this patient's record. We also get to see a Google style results pane which will show us around about 10 words of context either side of the result, and that's really important because that allows me to see the information and the context around the words that I've asked to be found. If we want to filter our results a little bit more, we can search for multiple phrases. So let's search for the word blood and oxygen. So now we've only got 5 results that have met our criteria. And again, I can view the context around those results and select the page that might be of importance or relevance to me. I can hit apply filter, and we can see we've only being shown now one particular anaesthetic record. And if I use the points of interest button on the control pane at the bottom, I'm taken to the very first result for oxygen, and then we also have blood there as well. So that's extremely useful for being able to search very quickly across all the patient record data that we are holding in CITO for this particular patient. CITO also allows for the ingestion of information from third-party systems, such as other clinical core systems, with the ability to also launch into these systems in third-party with or without a patient context. An example of this might be that pathology report that we are currently viewing. If I simply click on the attachment preview reel at the top, then we have a new option here, for example, called View in Native App. So this pathology report may have come from that third-party clinical system, such as maybe ICE pathology or radiology, and we may have additional information that we need to view that can't be communicated to CITO and is actually being kept in the source system, such as ICE, for example. So with the help of the third party and some integration capability, what we're able to do is view in native app. I can click here, and this will launch maybe ICE straight into that particular patient's context, and then showing additional results that may have been stored in the system. I can also get to third-party applications using the link icon on the left-hand side of the CITO user interface. Here I can configure various different integrations. This may be to existing EPRs or other prescribing systems, maybe even a DICOM image store. But also, very handily, I can configure additional links to go to third-party reference sites such as NHS NICE guidelines, for example, or maybe NHS choices. This allows me to launch directly from CITO and bring up NICE guidelines, for example, to help with any existing diagnosis of this particular patient. By utilizing the third-party integration capability that CITO offers, I'm able to build up a source of truth of this particular patient's record, bringing in from multiple third-party systems into one central repository so that I, as a clinician, can log in and view all pertinent information to this patient from a single unified view. Thank you for watching this short summary overview of CIVICA's CITO EDRMS. Please contact your account director for more information.